the roots of Messianic aspirations. We all know what the Messianic era is. We all know what Messiah is. So I won't spend time defining that, going over that. What I'm going to do today is demonstrate or show where that aspiration came from, the roots of it. Okay. Sounds like an interesting topic. Now, everybody may want to listen to this. So let's do this. Let's do this. I am having the issue is I don't even know where to start. Let me do this here. Yeah, I didn't know where to start. Let me start from Shiloh to Jerusalem, and then we can come back in. Then do that. The David says from the ground up, don't leave anything out. I'm not going to. So, we know of the ark narrative where David goes to bring the ark from from Shiloh. The ark comes to Jerusalem. That is what we have with the ark narrative. The goal or the whole narrative is telling us that the ark left Shiloh, however long it took, but it ended up in Jerusalem. What message is the biblical narrative of moving the ark from Shiloh to Jerusalem trying to convey? Now, when we read the text, what is the author trying to convey? By bringing the ark to Jerusalem, is scripture hinting that Shiloh's prominence as a holy site was waning? Is that what the text is trying to tell us? Is the narrative suggesting not only where its correct destination should be, which is the ark, namely Jerusalem, but also why such a relocation was deemed necessary? Is that the message that the author is trying to portray? Perhaps it marks an essential step of transferring sacred objects and spiritual power from one center to another, just as Mr. Marvin has put in the chat. Maybe that's what it suggests, suggesting that Jerusalem was considered more fit than Shiloh for housing the deity's presence. Maybe that is what we get when we read it. And that is what usually the conclusions that we make, or we follow suit 100% of the time when we read this narrative. Jerusalem is the place where I'll put my name, all the things that we read in the scriptures. Big story. And you know why I don't like big stories, familiar stories. We get so lost in the story, we miss the details. A closer look at the passage reveals a different answer. As usual, with an awareness and appreciation for historical context, one can gain further insight into this fascinating story. Extremely fascinating. And you will be fascinated as we go on. You'll be like, oh boy, why did I think it was this? And actually, it's talking about something else. Is the ark coming from Shiloh to Jerusalem? Is that the narrative? I beg to differ. Is rather the movement of the ark from Shiloh to Kiryat Jearim. That is what the narrative is about. It's not from Shiloh to Jerusalem, it's rather from Shiloh to Kiryat Jearim. Now let's start our class. The story starts in the north and it ends in the north. Look at it carefully. It starts from Shiloh and ends at Kiryat Jearim, which is the northern territory. So we are looking at an ancient foundational narrative that tells the story of how Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh's ark found its final resting place, not at Jerusalem, but at Kiryat Jearim. I'm taking for granted that we already know the narrative. There is a battle between the Philistines. They bring the ark from Shiloh to Ebenezer. The Israelites lose, and the Philistines take the ark and they bring it to Ashdod. There are some things that happen in the Philistine territories, and they want to give the ark back. They bring the ark to the territory of Beth Shemesh. The ark strikes them dead, the people in Beth Shemesh. And then the people in Beth Shemesh, they go up to Kiryat Jearim and ask them to come and bring the ark, and they bring the ark into the temple here at Kiryat Jearim. And I am saying that what we look here, the story that I just summarized, we are looking at an ancient foundational narrative that tells the story of how Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh's ark found its final resting place here at Kiryat Jearim, coming from Shiloh. And we can see this through looking closely at geographic, number one, and historic details. No theology here. We're looking at the geography, the names of places mentioned, and then we look at the historical details. When we do that, we can uncover a history unknown or lost to many. Let's look at the place names mentioned in the narrative, list them, give a historical background, archaeological background of these places, and then we see how the narrative actually starts to come alive. Any questions here, comments, before we start looking at these narratives and the places mentioned? It's always important. If a place name is mentioned in the text, it is important. There's a reason why it is being mentioned. So when we follow these place names, study the historical background of these places, archaeological background, we get a lot of data to make conclusions on. Okay, let's look at the narrative. 1 Samuel 4, like what I just summarized. And the word of Samuel was fulfilled to all Israel, and Israel went out to war against the Philistines, and they encamped beside Ebenezer, and the Philistines encamped in Aphek. And the Philistines arrayed their troops against Israel, and the battle spread, and Israel was beaten before the Philistines, and they slew in the battle array in the field about 4,000 men. And the people came to the camp, and the elders of Israel said, "Why has Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh beaten us today before the Philistines? Let us take to us from Shiloh the ark of the covenant of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, and he will come in our midst and save us from the hand of our enemies." So we have these place names here. Ebenezer is mentioned, Aphek is mentioned, Shiloh is mentioned. Put that in your spirit. Now we know what happens. The Israelites lost. 1 Samuel 5. Now the Philistines had taken the ark of God and brought it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. And the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it to the house of Dagon and set it up beside Dagon. So now we have Ashdod also mentioned here. Now there's a lot of commotion happening in the Philistine territory, so they decided to move the ark from their territory. And where did they bring it? And they placed the ark of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh on the cart, and also the box, and the golden mice, and the images of their hemorrhoids. And the cows went straight into the road on the way to Beth Shemesh. So we have Beth Shemesh mentioned here. On one highway, lowing as they went, and they turned neither to the right nor to the left. And the lords of the Philistines were going along after them as far as the border of Bethshemesh. Now the inhabitants of Bethshemesh were reaping the wheat harvest in the valley, and they lifted up their eyes and saw the ark, and they rejoiced to see it. Okay, so now they did not know how to deal with the ark. They did not come. Somebody looked into the ark, something like that, and they were struck, or Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh struck them, killed a lot of them. And then what happened? 1 Samuel 6. And they sent messengers to the inhabitants of Kiriath Jearim, saying, the Philistines have returned the ark of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh. Come down. Listen to the language. Come down, because the temple is on a hill, and take it up to you. So we have Kiriath Jearim mentioned here. Okay, so what do we have? We have Ebenezer mentioned, we have Aphek mentioned, we have Shiloh mentioned, we have Ashdod mentioned, Beth Shemesh mentioned, Kiriath Jearim mentioned. My focus is the last three. Number 4, number 5, number 6. They tell us an incredible story. Ashdod, Beth Shemesh, Kiriath Jearim. What do we know about these places archaeologically, historically? Let's start with Ashdod. Now, during the 8th century BCE, Ashdod emerged as a key city for the Philistines, taking precedence over its predecessor Gath. We've discussed this before. Gath used to be the big city, used to be the big deal, and then during the 8th century, it became Ashdod. Ashdod is located near the coastline of southern Canaan and blocking northern ambitions to expand into this area. This statement is important. You know, the north, they like expanding. That is the ambition. But where Ashdod is situated near the coastline, it's blocking northern ambitions to expand into this area. It quickly became an influential political power because of where it's sitting and its size. Despite some signs of upheaval around the late 9th century until early 8th century BCE, we have evidence of some destruction. There's something that happened to Ashdod. The archaeological evidence shows upheaval around late 9th century until early 8th century BCE. Eventually, as we know, Ashdod was destroyed by the Assyrians during their conquest in the late 8th century BCE. So this is what we know about Ashdod, and this is where it sits on the map right here. This is Ashdod. Okay? Any questions about Ashdod? You said you want maps so that you can have some visuals. So this is where Ashdod sits. Please put that in your spirit as we get to Beth Shemesh. Okay, so the text also mentions Beth Shemesh. There's very little to say about Beth Shemesh with where we are going. But this we know is a Judahite town. That is the only thing I want to say about it today. Beth Shemesh is a Judahite town, and this is where it sits, right here. Beth Shemesh. See where Ashdod sits. See where Beth Shemesh is, right there. Any questions before I move on?
Why not just move? Why not just move from Beth Shemesh to Jerusalem? Why go all the way up to Kiryat Jearim and then come back down to Jerusalem?
Beautiful question. Doesn't make sense. Looking at the map, you see there's no logic in this thing here. Why is it? Beautiful observation, beautiful question. Would see why. These are why maps and then the geography and the historical context and then the archaeological findings are extremely important when we're doing critical scholarship. Beautiful question. Awesome. Okay, now let's go to Kiryat Jearim and see what we can say about it. Important place. I'll spend some time here. Kiryat Jearim is situated on the border of Benjamin and Judah. It's a northern territory. Benjamin became southern because they expanded after the north was no longer. But the time we are talking about, Benjamin is northern territory. And this place, Kiryat Jearim, is situated on the border, right in the middle of Benjamin and Judah. This place boasts of a majestic temple built in the first half of the 8th century BCE. This period saw remarkable success for Israel's northern kingdom under Jeroboam II. But who was responsible for this temple? Some scholars argue that it's a construction by Judah. The famous one will be Matthew Adams. So while Matthew Adams claims it was constructed by Judah, the evidence suggests otherwise. Shabbat Shalom, Mr. Ralph. The evidence we have on the ground suggests otherwise. Now, let me throw that question to you. The temple is constructed in the 8th century BCE. Give me one reason why Judah could not have constructed this. Mr. Davis says in the chat, Judah wasn't about nothing. Correct. Judah couldn't have constructed this. We have what? Limited resources would have hindered their capacity to construct such an impressive edifice, number one. And at this time, Judah was also a vassal to the northern kingdom. So how are they constructing something on the border, the border of the north and the south? No, I mean, no chance. When you look at the architecture here, you would notice that it resembles the architecture of the Omride dynasty, because the northern kingdom of the Omrides boasted of an impressive architectural style in the 9th and 8th centuries BCE, which was characterized by elevated compounds. You have the same one here at Kiryat Jearim. These structures were a testament to the advanced civilization, that is the Omrides. So the same architecture structure that you see, where you have the elevated compounds, flat, and then you build something on it, that was the hallmark of the Omrides. And this is the same architecture that you see here at Kiryat Jearim. Judah wasn't building these huge things at this time. So when you look at my map, this is where Kiryat Jearim sits. Right here, Kiryat Jearim. That is where it sits. Where it sits is extremely important. Why do I say that? Even in Roman times, it was extremely important. Why? Controlling Kiryat Jearim was a powerful situational advantage for those who desired to dominate Jerusalem. You want to dominate Jerusalem? This is where you position yourself. Because this place provided access and control over one of the major trade routes here. Centuries later, during Roman times, this same significance was proven when an entity that sat in Kiryat Jearim held dominion over the holy capital. Right here, you take this place, you dominate Jerusalem. So it's situated atop a strategic vantage point overlooking Jerusalem. And this place has been used as a powerful checkpoint for centuries by controlling the area and its main route to the coastal plain. It was possible for whomever held sway to this city to dominate both access and influence over Jerusalem. Right here, Kiryat Jearim. And it was a northern territory. The temple built there by the north, not Judah. Any questions about the historical and archaeological data that I've just presented? Comments? We've seen Ashdod. We've seen Beth Shemesh. We've seen Kiryat Jearim. The ark moves from Shiloh to Ashdod. That is what we get in the narrative. From Shiloh to Ashdod. From Ashdod, it goes to Beth Shemesh. From Beth Shemesh, it doesn't go to Jerusalem, it goes to Kiryat Jearim. What the heck is going on? Any guesses? Let me go back. From Shiloh to Ashdod. From Ashdod to Beth Shemesh. From Beth Shemesh, it comes to Kiryat Jearim. Why doesn't it just go from Shiloh directly to Kiryat Jearim? This is what we miss when we're looking at it from the theological lens, and we are so taken captive by the um, 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 the size of the story and what David is doing in there, and all the details we miss.
But hold on, Rabbi.
Yes, sir.
To go from Shiloh to Ashdod, wasn't that due to war, where the Philistines captured it? Well,
That's
based
the
on what the
narrative
text
we
said?
get. Correct. Yes, that's
Oh,
what the
okay.
narrative is due to war, and then from there it comes to Bethshemesh. Correct. It's due to war. That's what the narrative gives us.
Oh, so historically, I wouldn't even be able to guess why it didn't go from Shiloh to Jerusalem.
Guess no. You would have to know what is going on, the geopolitics going on to actually understand what's happening there.
All right, let's go.
Let's go. Okay. Who do you think is writing this narrative that we're reading? No, that's a bad question. Let me rephrase it. The tradition, the historical tradition behind the narrative that we read of the ark coming from Shiloh to Ashdod to Bethshemesh and then back to the north, who do you think is behind it, writing it? Would you put it at the pen of a southern author or a northern author?
Southern author.
A southern author, okay. Anyone thinks it's a northern author before I come and ask why you chose what you chose?
Yeah, I think it's a northern author, but it's been edited.
Okay, so anyone seconds Mr. Drew? Anyone seconds Mr. Jason? Everyone is quiet. Okay, Mr. Drew, why do you say south?
Well, like I said, because of you including Judah in the narrative. But like I said, it could be like what Jason said. It could be a northern author wrote it, but then it was changed to include Judah in the process.
Beautiful. Beautiful. They're both correct. You have both pens there, but the older pen is that of the north. You wouldn't have a southern writer. Mr. David, if you can speak, what would have been the southern pen if we're writing about this, the route? Where do you think it would go? Shiloh to Ashdod? Yes, go ahead.
Would it still go to Ashdod though if the South was writing it?
Maybe not. Maybe not.
Yeah. I
But
figured it
let's
would
say
just go straight from Shiloh.
let's say Ashdod is there, is part of it. It did go to Ashdod. So from Ashdod, where would you think it would go?
If not Beth Shemesh, straight to Jerusalem. Because, I mean, that's the thing. If we're going based on the narrative,
Mhm.
from Ashdod to Jerusalem will show that, I don't know, it would reflect positively on David being a warrior
Right.
king. If he was able to go to the Philistines and get it back from them and bring it back to Jerusalem, that would just shine a brighter light on David if it was them.
Correct. Yes. But you see, and that's what scholars picked up. It doesn't make sense. Why take it from Shiloh to Ashdod, a Philistine territory? Then you get it to a Judean territory, which is Beth Shemesh. Why not move from Beth Shemesh if you're having issues to Jerusalem? That is what a southern author would have done logically. But it leaves Beth Shemesh and then it goes to Kiryat Jearim. Very strange. So we put away the southern pen and then we pick the northern pen, which is older than the southern pen, and we say, what is going on here? Now we look at the geopolitics of this time. What is happening politically? Now, remember, the North has ambitions to expand. It wants to expand to the coastal plains. Where Ashdod is sitting, it wants it. We have evidence of destruction around the 8th century here. So it means that the North tried to make a push to this place. So the Northern author demonstrates an authoritative stance on their perceived supremacy, the Northern tribe, by mocking Ashdod and demonstrating how Beth-Shemesh of Judah is struck by the God of the North. The author is ultimately dismissing both South and Ashdod as rightful location for the ark. The ark, demonstrating the power of the North, goes to Ashdod. That is what the Northern author writes. What happens when it goes to Ashdod? It displays there. It disrupts things. Their God is confused. It leaves Ashdod and comes to Beth Shemesh. What happens there? They are confused. The deity of the ark is killing them like rats. So it's mocking Ashdod. It is mocking Judah, Beth Shemesh. But when the ark finally arrives back in the north, however, all becomes peaceful, showing that this is the true home for the ark.
Yes, so what it is, as long as the ark is in the north, it is stable. Whenever it goes to the south, in other words, they are not the true people of Israel. That is why the ark was unstable in that area, because Israel and Judah were connected as one. The ark would have stayed stable. That's the way I see it.
100% correct. The north is expanding. It's taking territories. It has ambition of taking all these territories. It strikes at Ashdod. And the author is using that historical clash in his narrative. He's saying that the ark went to Ashdod and displayed there. Their gods were confused. A territory that the north wants to take. Now, it says that the ark left Ashdod and came to Beth Shemesh, a territory of Judah, and bombarded the place because it's a territory that the north wants to take. And then afterwards, the ark came back to the north. And then there was peace.
Rabbi,
Yes, sir.
is the ark representing the taking of territories?
Beautiful. Beautiful. 100%. Now let's validate what Mr. Jason just said with the scriptures. 1 Samuel 6, what happens? We are told when the 5 lords of the Philistines had seen and they returned to Ekron on that day, and these were the golden hemorrhoids which the Philistines had sent back. When the ark came to Beth-Shemesh, what happens? We are told the Beth-Shemeshites, and he smote of the people of Beth-Shemesh, for they had gazed upon the ark of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, and he smote the people, 70 men, 50,000 men, and the people mourned. And when they mourned, they sent the people in Kiryat Jearim to bring or to come and bring the ark back to their territory. So through the narrative, the ark narrative, I'll call this the theological setting. The historical background is what Mr. Jason just mentioned, but the theological setting, through the ark narrative, its northern author sought to demonstrate how Ashdod was inferior and no match for the power of the northern god. The writer then proceeds to highlight Beth-Shemesh in Judah, a southern territory, as another example of those who could not handle what the northern god had wrought. By contrast, once it arrived at its intended destination within the northern kingdom's borders, all chaos ceased, an indication that only there did this deity find true solace, from which he would reign supreme over both regions alike. The archers did not go there for a fanfare. No, the north is conquering these territories. So when they went to Ashdod, according to this writer, they conquered Ashdod. It came to Judah, Beth-Shemesh, according to the writer, they conquered Beth-Shemesh, meaning that now these two places are vassal to the northern kingdom. They've been ruled from the northern kingdom. So the ark goes from Shiloh to Ashdod, strikes Ashdod. From Ashdod comes to Judah, strikes Judah, wins, dominates, and then goes back to the north. And from there, it's going to rule. These two cities, poised opposite one another, and obstructed any attempts for territorial expansions and ambitions of the northern kingdom. They are in the north's way. We are going. Jeroboam II, he's going all the way behind Edom. He's going into the desert. These two territories are in his way. So in the 8th century, Ashdod blocked northern expansion to the south, while Judah became a vassal of the northern kingdom. I'm saying this because we don't have conclusive evidence that Ashdod was really a vassal of the north. We don't have conclusive evidence. We do for Judah. That is why I'm careful in my statement. In the 8th century, Ashdod blocked northern expansion to the south, while Judah became a vassal of the northern kingdom. This is evidenced by Jehoash, father of Jeroboam II, defeating Amaziah, king of Judah, at where? Beth-Shemesh. The text confirms it. Prior to his son's reign, prior to the reign of Jeroboam II, Judah was a vassal to the north. So the events you have here, they form an intricate political narrative during first half of the 8th century BCE. paving way for an epic narrative as we have about power struggles across ancient Israel. So in 2 Kings 4, we have the evidence that Judah is taken by the north. 2 Kings 14. In the second year of Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, the king of Israel, Amaziah, the son of Joash, the king of Judah, became king. He was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned in Jerusalem 29 years. His mother's name was Jehoadan of Jerusalem, and he did what was right in the eyes of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh, however, not like his father David. Like all that Joash, his father, did, he did. However, the high places were not removed. The people were still slaughtering sacrifices and burning incense on the high places. And it was when the kingdom became well established in his hand that he slew his servants who had assassinated his father. Okay. But the sons of the assassins he did not execute, as it is written in the book of the Torah of Moshe, which Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh commanded, saying, Fathers shall not be put to death for sons, nor shall sons be put to death for fathers, but each man shall be put to death for his own sin. He struck down 10,000 of the Edomites in the valley of Salt, and he seized the rock in battle, and he called its name Joktheel until this day. Okay, then Amaziah sent messengers to Jehoash, the son of Jehoahaz, the son of Jehu, the king of Israel, saying, Come, let us confront each other. And Jehoash, the king of Israel, sent to Amaziah, the king of Judah, saying, The thistle that was in Lebanon sent to the cedar that was in Lebanon, saying, Give your daughter to my son for a wife. And the wild beast that was in Lebanon came and trampled the thistle. You have defeated the Edomites, and your heart has made you arrogant. Retain your honor by staying home. Now why should you provoke evil and fall, you and Judah with you? Amaziah did not heed. However, and Jehoash the king of Israel went up, and they confronted one another, he and Amaziah the king of Judah, in Beth Shemesh, our place of focus, which belongs to Judah. And Judah was beaten before Israel, and they fled each man to his dwelling place. And Jehoash the king of Israel seized Amaziah the king of Judah, the son of Jehoash the son of Ahaziah, in Bethshemesh. And he came to Jerusalem, pay attention, and breached the wall of Jerusalem at the gate of Ephraim until the corner gate, 400 cubits. And he took all the gold and silver and all the vessels that were found in the house of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh and in the treasuries of the king's palace and the hostage children, and he returned to Samaria. Now you know that this is not accurate. They didn't have any gold. There's nothing there that the king of Israel would want to take. The only reason that they attacked Bethshemesh is because they wanted that spot in Gilead. They wanted to dominate the south, not because of their gold. No, they wanted access to the coastal plains. So the text confirms that Judah, that's Bethshemesh, is defeated. The northern kingdom takes it as a vassal. This is what is happening historically. Kiryat Jearim, sitting right there on the border of the north and the south, with the north dominating the south as well. Give me one expression that would describe that situation. Give me one expression, biblical expression, that would describe the historical situation at this time, where the north is controlling both the north and the south.
United Kingdom. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom. Is that Mr. CJ?
Yes, sir.
Yes, beautiful.
United Kingdom. Sorry.
What? What you see here is a united monarchy ruled from Samaria, the northern kingdom, not Jerusalem. You've heard of the united monarchy, the United Kingdom of Israel. Have you ever thought, how should I even put the question? It's always been ruled from Jerusalem, correct? But what you see here is a united monarchy and is ruled from Samaria. And when we talk about a united monarchy here, it's not one family. It's the north being the Lord and then the south being the vassal. What has been pushed is a united kingdom or united monarchy with Jerusalem in the forefront, with Shlomo sitting there. But that is not historical. That is theological. Twice, the northern kingdom has ruled over Judah. Twice. First, with the Omrides trying to make Jerusalem their dynasty in the 9th century. And then, secondly, Israel dominating over Judah after the battle at Bethshemesh in the 8th century. Twice. The south has been a vassal to the north, and the north ruling over the south, making this a united monarchy, which is a lord and his vassal. We can see this intricately detailed with Solomon's description of his districts found in chapters 4 of 1 Kings. This chapter highlights what life was like during Jeroboam II's reign. You go to 1 Kings 4 and it tells you, and King Solomon was king over all Israel. I beg to differ. No, it was Jeroboam II. Solomon never ruled the whole Israel. Now look at the place names. Put it in its historical setting. And you will see that this is reality of Jeroboam II. Clues of united monarchy rule from Samaria in the time of Jeroboam II, not Solomon. So when they say Solomon rules from Jerusalem to the Euphrates, Mr. J's already dealt with that. Not possible. And that is what Genesis about Abraham's territory, where he's going to inherit, comes from, is based on this ideology of Shlomo ruling from where he sits all the way to the edge of the Euphrates. So, the temple at Kiryat Jearim was a crucial symbol of the Israelite united monarchy ruled by Jeroboam II from Samaria in the northern kingdom. The transporting of their sacred ark, once housed at Shiloh, to this dedicated space demonstrated their dominion over Jerusalem and established them as one united kingdom. This is what we are reading when we read about the movement of the ark from Shiloh to Kiryat Jearim. So this is one block, the historical block behind that narrative. We do have a narrative of David coming to this place and moving the ark from this territory to Jerusalem. We have to deal with that. So the historical part from the north, this is the historical, the archaeological. What really is happening is the domination of the north over these territories. Okay, what about David moving the ark from this place to Jerusalem? What can we say about that? David's epic mission to transport the Ark of the Covenant from Kiryat Jearim to Jerusalem was not recorded in original accounts. Southern authors added this embellishment during a later era. In David's 10th century, Jerusalem had yet to emerge as an influential hub. During David's lifetime, there was no temple standing here at Kiryat Jearim, and this location wasn't even significant. 200 years must pass before Kiryat Jearim's power and prestige would peak around the first half of the 8th century BC. What does that tell us?
David's rulership is mythological as far as his expansions.
Right. How can you move something from a place that did not exist in your day? We're looking at the 8th century. David is sitting in the 10th century. So what we're talking about is 200 years after David. So the narrative that we get of David coming here, moving the thing to Jerusalem, is problematic. It couldn't have happened. Or let me be nice, it couldn't have happened in the days of David. So how do we solve this? What is the historical background here? When would Judah have any authority to go to Kiryat Jearim and move this sacred object? I'd ask again, when do you think Judah would have had the courage, the nerves, the guts to go to this northern territory, Kiryat Jearim, and possibly relocate this sacred object and bring it to Jerusalem? Because this
After
territory
the
was...
Assyrians, once the north was defeated.
Yes. Once the north is no more, once that united monarchy ruled from Samaria, dominated from Samaria, is no more, this is when the south can go and relocate this ark. And this was during the time of Hezekiah. Because, like I was about to say, Hezekiah, this would have happened during the time of Hezekiah, not Josiah, during the time of Hezekiah. Because Hezekiah dreamt of a powerful Davidic monarchy that could stretch across lands and reign from Jerusalem. He has that ambition. Where is he getting that ambition from? He's getting it from what the North had done. So this narrative, composed in 700 BCE, before King Josiah, was written to instill this idea, which was a northern kingdom past reality, within the people of Judah, that one day they will be able to rise up and fulfill Hezekiah's vision of a united kingdom based in their beloved home city, Jerusalem. So it is a future idea that they were looking forward to. An idea that was a reality for the northern kingdom of Israel before the Assyrians destroyed them. So now Judah is writing that a day is going to come in the future where Israel is going to unite. Unite doesn't mean that come together as one, but Jerusalem is going to be the place instead of Samaria. Jerusalem will be the place where what the north had done in the north, the south would also do. From Jerusalem, they would rule the whole of Israel. Judah will rule the whole of this territory. These are aspirations. This was a dream. The first person to have a dream was not MLK, it was Hezekiah. He had a dream. He's dreaming of what he has seen demonstrated by the north. And then with this, you have the whole Messianic era, the whole Messianic thought. What is that Messianic thought? Right here. Where Mashiach would do it. You know it. The focal point is Judah. The focal point is Jerusalem. And where is that thought coming from? They're getting it because they had a taste of it when they were a vassal to the northern kingdom, and the northern kingdom ruled the whole place. So what happens when the northern kingdom, a historical entity, lost its place? They went by the name Israel. When they lost their land, when they were kicked out, Judah takes on the name Israel. It's a theological name because it was the northern kingdom of Israel and then it was the southern kingdom of Judah. But when the north fell, now Judah comes in and then takes the name Israel. So there's a change from a real historical entity to a theological, a religious one. And it's all based off of this aspiration to dominate the place just as the northern kingdom had done in the past. A dream of Hezekiah after the northern kingdom was no more. So when we're waiting for the Messianic age, when we're waiting for the Messianic era, when Judah is waiting for their turn, this is where it's all coming from. Questions, contributions, additions here, please. And this thought goes all the way to the New Testament. This thought is what, after the ark is brought, David wants to build a house for Yah. Yah says, no, I'd rather build a house for you. I'll build a dynasty. And then from this narrative comes the Messianic era, where David's throne is going to be forever.